Friday morning, can't control it. Fired up and counting every minute. Hands are shaking, eyes are burning. The time has come, yeah, this is not a warning. The week was just so long, we had to let it go. Our problems disappeared, we're not tied up anymore. The weekend is here. Sunday calls, we are sick and tired of it. Up and down, can you feel it? Up and down. You ain't seen nobody like this. You ain't seen nobody like this. You hear my sound all over town singing. Whoa. You ain't seen nobody like this. You ain't seen nobody like this. You hear my sound all over town singing. Whoa.
Hey everybody, and welcome to the Kurt Johansson Show. It's Kurt. Today we're looking at #Scandigraps again. We're looking at Scandinavian wrestling, and this time I've got the Hangman. I've got Copenhagen Championship Wrestling champion, Copenhagen Hangman. Thanks for coming on the show, man.
Thanks, man. I appreciate it. And also, you're doing one hell of a work, Kurt. I mean, that's a lot of work you're doing here. Research
I
in
appreciate it.
Scandinavia.
Now,
I think
I've really
it's
I've been enjoying it. Like I had a few people like tweet saying you should have a look into Scandinavian wrestling, and obviously with my last name being Johansson, I've got Swedish background, but then also on my dad's side there's the Danish background as well from like the grandparents. I was like, you know what, I'm gonna start having a look, and I started looking into it. I spoke to obviously Lou over here in the UK, and he just sang the praises like tenfold. He just loves it in Denmark. So I was like, I'm gonna have to have a look at it, and I think it's probably my main content at the moment. I know I'm doing some obviously UK based, and I'm looking in Southeast Asia, but I think most of my content that I've been releasing over the past few weeks and interviews that I've got booked in are Danish wrestling, and looking into Scandinavia. So yeah, thank you for the kind words, and thank you for coming on the show.
Yeah, no worries, man. It's about time.
Yeah, it's been one in the pipe for a couple of weeks now, and good that we can finally sit down and talk about it. And we mentioned it before, like before we started recording, you mentioned with the name Hangman, and obviously Copenhagen. Am I right in thinking you're the first Copenhagen wrestler?
Yeah. Well, I know that there was a couple of guys from Sjælland.
Yeah.
Started out training in Køge.
Okay.
And I think I know Sebastian was a part of that. But I was the one, I was alone and started training in Malmö.
Yeah.
And then I started training in Danish Pro Wrestling, and I finally got my debut on an official show in Copenhagen.
Oh,
And
wow.
I've been running there ever since. And as I said earlier, before we started shooting, there's a lot of hangmen around the world, but there's only one Copenhagen Hangman, and just tried to take it in a different direction than the earlier gimmicks from the 60s and 70s. And yeah, it's a more modern take on a hangman, for sure.
Okay. So elaborate a little bit more, like, because when you're starting out and you're finding who you are, both as a wrestler and a character, then the name, unless you're going to do 10 million gimmick changes, that's who you're going to be recognized as. So what prompted you to go down the Hangman route, and what makes it different to those of old, as you explain?
Well, when I started out, and I'm really gonna try to cut it short because it's a very long story. But when I started out, I was the story goes, my friend Thomas, he asked me in 2011. He said, there is a wrestling show going on in Malmö, and they're called SWS. And this show is called Danska Jävla.
Okay.
Perhaps it was 2012. in any case, we go and watch the show, and something just clicks inside of me. I mean, I watch the veteran Chaos take on Killer Carlson, which is sort of the baby face of the city of Malmö. And it's just so freaking awesome. I mean, I'm with a lot of friends. We made a group called Team Doom, and so when I watched that show, something clicked inside of me, and I've been pretty depressed for like a year. And for people who don't know, depression can be it's both a physical but also a mental thing, and it can really like knock you out.
Yeah.
And something clicked there. And then, long story short, I talked with Chaos, and 8 months later, I had my first wrestling session. I knocked down doors. I called everyone I knew of, like, I want to wrestle. Even though Chaos told me, like, you're too old, because I was 35 at that point when I started wrestling. And there was a lot of stuff. There was a lot of challenges, and the whole pain threshold of being in the ring, doing the bumps. And I had some pretty tough coaches that just, like, they were brutal, and they wanted me out of there. So I started in Sweden. But to get back to your question, I took that energy. I took that depression, and I was like, okay, I want to turn this into something positive, right? I want to turn this into... I just want one match, and what should that be? And it's just like, I've always been a fan of The Undertaker, right? But The Undertaker is The Undertaker. So I'm just gonna take a small snippet of The Undertaker and put it in there. But I've also been a fan of Sting. I'm just gonna take a small piece of that and put it in there. Yeah. And then my own personality, and I've always done role playing or like LARPing and like all kinds of theatrical stuff, and that just it just clicked together. And the thing about the Hangman is, like, in society, everyone wears a mask. We go to our job. There's someone at the counter. They're smiling at you. They're tired, but they put on a mask.
Yeah.
So what Hangman did, he had a mask on, but that was just like an illusion. So when he takes the mask off, that's when the real kind of like demon, devil, bat out of hell comes into play. And it just sort of clicked. Yeah. I don't know if it makes sense, but yeah, that's sort of the process. And it's changed over time. Sometimes I've pulled it a bit back, and then sometimes I made it totally epic. So, yeah.
No, I get what you're saying. Like, you're trying to make it to where, although people are normally intimidated by the masks when you think of people, say, like Kane or Abyss, but for you, it's when you take the mask off, that's what's the intimidating thing, the thing under the mask.
Yeah, because there's a lot of people out there in society that wears a lot of masks to survive. And I think it's like... It's also a part, like, what are we trying to achieve here with the match? What is the storyline? What is the program? And it's like, sometimes I take it a bit back, but then sometimes I really go all intense. It's about like levels of intensity.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
which style do you prefer?
Well, I'm not the most light. I like to get hit.
Yeah.
In snark, strong style. I don't speak in those terms. I mean, I want to feel it in the ring. And that's part of, because I've been trained by Chaos, and he's my friend, but he's also my mentor, and he was really hard on me. So if people don't if I can't feel, I can't tell. It's I would say it's in between. But I'm more of a brawling kind of. I can do technical stuff, but I'm not the best at the technical stuff. But I'm more of a brawler, and psychology, and how to connect with the audience and listen to the audience. a lot about psychology. And you've heard this before from like Pete Phoenix and Sebastian Day, but it's what goes on between the moves.
Yeah.
Right. And the move itself is about it's like 4 acts of a match. You have 4 segments in a match, and that move might be the one that goes to the second segment of the match, and then you build it up towards that. But I'm more of a brawling type, and I like it to be a bit snug, or like snug. That's when I'm at my best, because then it becomes real and gritty, and also my experience is that people can really see the difference.
Yeah. Is there been anybody that you've faced in the ring, other than Chaos, like that's surprised you with just how snug were you thinking, I don't think this one's gonna like suit my style, where you might think they're going to ease up a little bit and then they've surprised you?
Well, when I was green and I was in Malmö, well, the only one who really took it and I was as much to blame because I had something to prove to him.
Yeah.
That was Chaos. And we went at it and made one hell of a match, which somebody told me that was the match of the year. It was a tag team. It was me and Jay Goldman from the States and Raun or Raven, which is a part of, I saw the Pete Phoenix show, so I think I can say it. That is a part of Randers Panya now.
Yeah.
And Chaos. But we divided it. So it was a brawl between me and Chaos, and all the technical stuff Raun and Jay Goldman delivered. But I refused to step behind him. So I followed him, and that's the hardest, where I was like, okay, he's taking it to a whole nother level. I have to survive here. Through a steel chair, ladders. Yeah, that was a hard day at the office for sure. I felt that for weeks.
I bet. Yeah, one thing that has fascinated me with Danish wrestling is just how much everybody does appreciate the art of kayfabe. Like, I think here in the UK, people, even fans, and sometimes it does annoy me where, for example, we've had wrestlers where they might play a certain character from a different country, and everyone's like, we all know you from this country, and it's like, just let yourself get into the character. And obviously with my interview with Nitro Green, I did that separately, but with Raven / Adonis, he was happy because he's been seen, mind people knowing. But it has been one massive thing, like with Pete, where he was like, I don't really want to say, because he didn't want to announce it to the world. I was like, oh no, that's fine, we've already spoke about it in an interview. But I really do appreciate that. Like, what's your thoughts on kayfabe and the way wrestling's gone in the past couple of years with kayfabe breaking down?
Well, the audience wants to believe. I mean, they buy a ticket, and if it's put well together with the storylines and the wrestlers, and if they take it seriously, but they take it serious to an extent, because everyone around me in the beginning when I did this wrestling thing, and I was like, this wrestling thing, this is fake. And I'm like, yeah. And I just stopped explaining to them. I just said, come to a show and watch it. And they want to believe. They want to believe so much so that within the first 2 matches, they sort of transform into this, like the connection begins, and then when they come out, they have like all this dopamine and adrenaline in their body, and like, oh, this was awesome. So kayfabe is definitely a part of it. It's not like it used to be, like in the territories in the States, but it's definitely something that is still in the work. Like, for instance, Kurt, you're my first podcast where I talk freely about stuff. I've been doing this for like 8 years, 8.5 years now, and there's been not podcasts but other live stuff, and I'm always sort of like in between the kayfabe and myself, but always keep them guessing. And I have a great story about that. I was in SWS, and I always went home after the show. I never went down with the audience because I really needed to get as much heat, and they tried to get under my skin, and that was hard because Hangman is cold-blooded.
Yeah.
And then the promoter came down, or the booker, and he said, look, you need to go down with the boys and drink just at least one beer. And I went down, and I smiled, and I looked at people, and then 3 guys comes over to me and says, you're really creepy up in that ring. And I'm like, thank you. And it was like, but you're really nice now. Am I nice? Or am I making you believe that I'm nice? And he's like, I don't know. And I'm like, no, I am nice. And he looks at me like, oh, okay, that's awesome. Or am I? And then I walked away. Always make them like think that they don't know quite as much as they really wanted to know. Do you get me? Or like, yeah?
Yeah. No, I get it. Yeah, so with that being said, like with the kayfabe stuff, I know what you mean because I had one of my friends on the show, Matt. He's a wrestler here in the UK, Matt Myers, and we're talking about like his career, and he works for a family-friendly company. Like that's predominantly where he worked. But then he's been working for a different company, and I was telling the story of where he was playing heel, and he doesn't really play heel. And I had grown adults that are smart to the business, thinking what he was doing was a shoot, where he knew one of the audience members and they'd already planned it, where this audience member was giving him a lot of aggro in the face because this guy's never involved in rings or matches or anything like that. He's just always a passionate fan that they know.
Yeah.
And Matt ended up, what was supposed to happen was Matt was supposed to drag his shirt over his head and like pull his shirt off, but the shirt wouldn't come and he kind of like came. So Matt was like, right, I need to keep this looking believable.
Yeah.
And started putting a few like kicks and stuff like that. And the fan Dougie was selling it. And I had people behind me thinking, like, surely they can't use him again.
Yeah.
Like, because they genuinely thought what they were seeing was real. And to do that on especially the UK independents, where everybody wants to be the smart fan, and these were the same group of people where there was being those typical smart fans of just yelling things out that aren't in kayfabe, but then all of a sudden they're thinking Matt's kicking the shit out of a fan. So I get the kayfabe and I prefer it. I think it's, especially in this era, like I think it's really commendable when people can take audiences that kind of know what's going on and still be able to tell that story. And even if people know what you're doing is a performance, but for them to still enjoy it as they would if it's theatre or a movie and just get absorbed in it.
Yeah, well, even other wrestlers in the locker room, when you have a show and you go out, they can also be like, "Oh my God, are you okay?" Or like that, are you mad at each other? And that happened a few times. I was like, I've been at 2 faker breaks, and the first faker break, I had to go home and work. So one of my coaches, Mr. Pay-Per-View, he comes over to me and says, "Okay, we will throw you out, but can you do just a small promo and do some drama?" And it ends up, and if you watch YouTube, I can throw you the link. It ends up with me being like so mad at some of the other contestants, and then I just walk out and just slam the door. But away from the cameras on the other side, a lot of the other trainees and some of the more experienced wrestlers are standing, including other coaches.
Yeah.
And some of them come over to me like, "Are you okay, Jesper? Are you going home now? Or what is going on?" And I just walked in again. I was just smiling. I was like, "Was that okay?" And they were like, "Was that a promo?" It just means that what happens in the ring, everyone around the ring are pretty much just marks, if you can call it that, or guessing.
Yeah.
And I think that's the beauty of pro wrestling.
Yeah.
Like everyone wants to be the you call the smart mark, so everyone wants to know everything about it. That's cool, but just leave the wrestling to the wrestlers and the performers. Like, but I'm old school that way, and yeah.
Like, so going back to with Chaos, like obviously somebody that helped train you, somebody that you were facing early in your career and throughout. Like, what have you learned best from Chaos?
Oh man, I learned a lot. Well, first of all, I learned to take pain,
Yeah.
like whether it's the ring or it's another wrestler. I also learned to put together a match. He taught me a lot about my move set. Uh, like you should do this, but this is like you don't have to do that
Yeah.
because you're tall. You're taller than everyone, so it's like except a few other wrestlers in Denmark, I'm sort of the tallest.
Yeah.
Uh, and you don't have to do that. And walk slower and put the pace down. Like, how do you build a match, right? But he also taught me a lot about the business. Like, he taught me a lot about what, how to make a promotion. Is this a good booking? Longer programs and like he supported me. It's hard to like narrow it down because he's been such an instrumental mentor for me.
Yeah.
Psychology wise, my second other important half is I have to mention him because he was really instrumental in creating me as a performer also, and I would say, in my opinion, that he's the best storyteller and the best at psychology, and that's Dan Attila from Sweden, and he created the first incarnation of SWS, Johansson. Those two combined, that's explosive. I mean, that's both the best things of both worlds because Chaos is a wrestler, and Dan is also a wrestler, but he's more of a storyteller.
Yeah.
From a match standpoint and the entire show, but also the entire year. So that's pretty much what I learned. Yeah. Also, how to conduct myself. I mean,
out of those, like, who do you prefer to share the ring with?
that's a loaded question. Everyone. I take pride in taking some of the new trainees and having a match with them on a show.
Yeah.
I think that's important. And some of the matches are not that good, but I think it's important that they get some experience, and then we do what we can with it, and then we could go back and they get a briefing and some small tidbits they can use. But as far as like where I really have to, where we go in and it's magic. Carlos Zamora, that's definitely one of them. That's always magic working with him. It's he in the beginning he had some problems with psychology, but that's normal when you're so talented and physical. I mean, he learns so fast every move, and he's just such a hard worker. But the psychology came a bit slower to him. But definitely Carlos, and that's in 2000. I mean, we've had some matches, and all of them are just like chaos. I love working with him. Yeah, I like working with him. A guy in Malmö in SWS called El Stykelse. You should look him up. He's like a friendly. He's like the friendly demon, but I like working with him as well. Yeah. I mean, I could work with Sebastian for 45 minutes and we could call it in the ring, right? So that I don't think that counts. And also Pete Phoenix, sure. I haven't had the best matches with him because there's still some. I mean, I'm still waiting for that, like really magical. But we've had good matches. And then also working with well, I'm mentioning all my mentors, but that's really what it's been for me working with them. So Killer Carson at Copenhagen, that was one hell of a match. Yeah, that's been a few. Like
Who
working
is
with Jay Goldman as well. That was also a good match. Yeah, I mentioned that's that, man.
who is the that's currently coming through that have impressed you or surprised you with just how good they were at such a young start? Whether or not you've worked with them or whilst you've been with CCW, you've just seen one of the matches and like, shit, that kid can go.
Well, I have my eyes on a guy called Emilian, and the storyline is that they're the new owners of CCW. It's like Victorious, and Emilian. But Emil, I've trained him. I've trained with him, and he's coming up now. He had his debut in at Ragnarok 2. He's got great physique. He can do a lot of stuff. I'm looking at him like, okay, in a year, we're definitely gonna see some CCW new performer coming up through the ranks. That's for sure. I really like his style, and also he's humble and he listens, which is he's coachable, which is important.
Yeah.
So that's good. Yeah.
No, brilliant. So, how do you feel from the contrast of Danish wrestling then from when you first started? Obviously, like it has been no secret with kind of like the split that was in wrestling and stuff like that. And now I feel with, especially with the help of social media growing, I think with CCW and BodySlam, you both use Twitter really well. And I think that's important. I think in terms of wrestling media, I think Twitter's probably the best place to be to grow and to get more international because people are more likely to retweet than they are to share on Facebook, I feel. So I think it's a good way to. Everybody follows everybody. If you see a wrestling fan, somebody will follow them. So then when you're getting those retweets, it's like, oh, this is cool, this is new. It's kind of like how I came across it all, I guess. How how do you feel the scene's changed and over the years?
Well, in the beginning, there was like Danish Pro Wrestling, and then there was then slowly very very small promotion that made small house shows called it's like 20 or 30 people called Wrestling DK. Um, and at some point, the people within Danish Pro Wrestling, they sort of divided. They had a falling out.
Yeah.
And I know my mentor sort of like took the brunt of the chaos, took the brunt of it. And I know this because he's my friend. And then there's been a lot of beefs back and forward. And then, of course, BodySlam got created and CCW got created. The thing is with the marketing, like promotional stuff, and you mentioned Twitter, and like I've had Lou like, you need to get on Twitter, man. It's like awesome. And then I make a Twitter account and I say to him, listen, we're only in Copenhagen, right? Yeah, but we need to do it worldwide. And he's very ambitious about CCW. Like he's such a passionate friend and brother. But I told him like, yeah, but I get it. And I could just see our Twitter followers just like because Lou was just like, oh, we need to be over here and here and here. But we're only in Copenhagen. And yes, we need to spread it. The thing is, the last 2 years, we've had sold out shows.
Yeah.
And to get to that next level, like from a money standpoint, like we can have like a show 200, 300, even up to a maximum of 500 people. Yeah. We can do that. But that's from Facebook. To go into Twitter, there's not a lot of Danes that uses Twitter.
Yeah.
And it's abroad. It's like in the UK, it's Scotland, and all that. It's not that we don't do it. It's just not like at the moment where CCW is at. It's not a priority where it would be a priority in the UK to like go on Twitter and like retweet, because that retweet will get retweeted. I get it, but at some point I think CCW will get there. It's just like a matter of focus.
Yeah.
Like,
No, I get it. I think it was my interview with Nitro Green where he said something similar, like Facebook's where the money is. Facebook's what's going to sell you tickets at this point in time. I
Brother
think
Knight is right. Yeah.
I think in terms of Twitter, it would be if you get a streaming platform where they can go to your global audience, and if there's, because I'm planning on trying to get out to Copenhagen when the world goes back to normal, as long as the boss allows me. Like, we've got a 4-week-old child now.
Yeah.
So, but it's one of those where, and I've even been speaking to a few different people in the UK that are different podcasters and stuff like that. I'm like, because they're like, oh, it's cool. Like, I've seen you doing quite a lot of Scandinavian stuff. And I was like, oh yeah, like this is what's been happening. And I was like, the plan is to fly out to Copenhagen, try and do a show. And I think some of them are like, let's try and see how many of us want to do it, from different people from all over the UK to try and get together to fly out. And hopefully that can be through Twitter, trying to get that international audience where, as long as 2, 3, 4, like look at WXW, like for that weekend, fly from all over the world for that. I know a lot of people in the UK wrestling scene, and I think with everything I've heard from Copenhagen, it's very vibrant. It's very like the adult based and stuff like that. It's a very party scene, I guess. So I think for a lot of us Brits, it's appealing because it's like we can go out there, you can get pissed, watch some good wrestling, have fun in Copenhagen. So hopefully with social media, that's where Danish wrestling as a whole and CCW as a whole. I know, again, you mentioned Lou, he's pushing it massively. Hopefully that can help you grow that international audience.
Well, when in the beginning, when I had the vision about creating CCW, it was just like, okay, we are in Copenhagen. This is a party city. Yeah. We need to make it. We need to make it punk, rock and roll, and grungy. We don't need to make it family oriented. We want to sell beer. We want to sell drinks. We want a party going. But we also, and we never had any fights. We never had any, like, people are really respectful still, right? And there are also some kids coming in. But the vision was like, okay, we don't want it kind of like we don't want it like WWE style or the UK style. It needs to be like very pure pro wrestling. We wanted rocket, and if mistakes happen, we want it to be snark, and we want it to be as realistic as possible. I mean, I loved progress wrestling. Like, I loved it. Like, that was like, okay, if we can take some of that and put it into the Copenhagen city, I think it's gonna work. And it did. So with a lot of hard work and teamwork and stuff. But also, I think by next year, CCW will be ready with the local heroes, because the local hero psychology is so important. People come like and watch Black Kurt, and Black Kurt is not booked anywhere. He's only booked in Copenhagen, and they just chant his name so loud, and when he comes out, it just blows off the building. And that's a local hero that we sort of can use.
Yeah.
So when the local heroes are set and everyone is sort of like aligned, then we can bring, like, that was always the plan, bring other people in that can either enhance or like work with the talent in CCW. Yeah. But not in the beginning. In the beginning, it was about like, okay, we need to tell stories about the local guys and not make it fast. So we bring all kinds of people in because we needed to make it look so professional. that was never the intent. It was about showing passion for pro wrestling and wanting to take it step by step, brick by brick, and building it up slow. And like 5 years later, it's like sold out, man.
You've done
So
that.
even through Corona, it's yeah.
Well, that brings me on to my next statement with Corona, and I think you've done the right thing. And it's not just blowing like smoke up your ass or out like that. Like
Yeah.
when NXT UK happened here in the UK, there's certain companies that closed, and it's shit that they've had to close, but it's because they didn't really have the local guys, or if they did have local guys, they were already made before they weren't made in that company. They was made elsewhere, but they just so happened to be from there. And when you're getting 10, 20 people signed, they didn't have the names to where attendances would drop because people can't go see their favourites, but there's no local favourites. Whereas, again, going back to my home company in NGW, they don't really bring in imported talent. They don't really bring in all the southern-based wrestlers. They've got their contingent, like they use their academies. They've got two, and like you said, local stars were, for example, Will Ospreay. He's taken over the world, like doing great things. He came onto a show, and this show had over 1,000 people in, and he came to the show, barely got a cheer when he came out because nobody really knew who he was because the audience didn't match it, and there was cheering for Robbie X, who's another fantastic wrestler. Don't get me wrong, but everybody was quite surprised. And then NGW still managed to strive. They still managed to put on their shows because when they've lost a few people to NXT UK, like Joseph Connors or somebody like that, they've got the next couple of people coming through their academy to bring back into the fold. And when something like coronavirus has happened, like it's taken over the world, you've not had to rely on bringing people that the crowd won't care about because you've built that home-based contingency, and then you bring in the occasional like looking sharp and stuff like that, but you've not based your whole promotion around it.
No, I was at a Legend tour. There was a couple of Legend tours going on in Denmark and Sweden, and we sort of had this circuit where we went to Malmö, and then there was something in Gothenburg. I was not a part of the Gothenburg thing, but came to Malmö, and then we went to Copenhagen, and that was with Hacksaw Jim Duggan, and that worked okay. But when you take a foreign talent that is so big, and his booking fees and transport fees and all of that stuff, it really has to like land on how much surplus and income can we get from a show, especially at this level. But like with Luke King Sharp, it's like when he came the first time, he didn't get the response he needed, but he sort of assimilated with the locker room, had the same mentality, and he became a friend. And we had like this training sessions with him and stuff, and we became friends. It was like, okay, there's a program here that fits Luke King Sharp, like, and because of that, it's sort of like then there's something special. But it's at that level. If we wanted to bring some big guy in, I mean, it had to be a big show, and you can't expect in Denmark that people will know. Like I know Lou and me, we talked about getting Sabu in.
Yeah.
And it was like, there might be some hardcore ECW fans that thinks, awesome, Sabu. But I also said to him, listen, we need to know exactly what the numbers are before we proceed with that kind of thing. But that would have been awesome. And I would definitely, like, back then, it was like when we talked about it, I could see Lou and Sabu tearing it up for sure.
No, it would be great to see, but it's good to see the business sense is there because again, you could do say 5 or 6 like blockbuster shows, all the best international talent, and then shit, we've overspent, or the fans haven't come back because they only came for that one. Whereas bringing in these like Lou and you're building it up, you want to know how So you might get the 400, 500 people, but
Yeah.
would you be able to get that without Sabu? Possibly. So I get what you mean, where it's what else can they get? Because although you want to put on good products, tell a good story, and have these good matches, it's the longevity. And speaking to Sebastian, he mentioned the whole plan of, I can't remember the figure off the top of my head, but where you want to get to the massive show in Copenhagen, you can't get there by being reckless with business.
No. You have to analyze every number, because those money you make from that show goes into the pot for the next show, and it builds towards that big show. Luckily, I had a friend in Jake, like Ragnarok, the first Ragnarok. We had Carlos Zamora versus Jake Oman, and Jake Oman, in my view, is at the top 10. He's that good. He's really that good, but there's not a lot of people who know him. But he came, so we had like a top professional wrestler who's wrestled in Japan, and he's wrestled all over the States. He's been to a WWE tryout, and like he's awesome, and he works Carlos Zamora, who learns so much from Jake just from that match. But it was never about like Jake stayed with me for a week. He had his holiday. He's my friend, right? So that was kind of like, okay, we have this awesome wrestler. It's not about the tickets here. It's about showing like really awesome wrestling. And it was not a name. So it was not like 30,000 or something to pay for like a well-known name, right? So yeah.
I've known a company here in the UK book a former WWE guy. The person's actually back in WWE now, but they'd already sold out the show, and this person wasn't originally on the show. And then they found out he was available, and then flew him in and paid the fee. And to me, like, that doesn't make good business sense. And now that company's whole image has changed, and they're having to use a lot more local talent and younger talent, and the shows have decreased in size because eventually they ran out of money. And I can imagine it's so easy to get carried away, especially if you're a fan of the product, and it's again, Sabu. It'd be so cool to just have Sabu on your show and say you've had that, but you've got to keep grounded and realistic.
Yeah, but I mean, the lifeblood of the promotion will always be the local talent who trains, like, for instance, in Copenhagen, right? So the most important thing about the local talent, also the new trainees coming up, is giving them a direction, helping them out with some gimmicks, looking at their moveset, helping them with psychology so they understand what is going on. But mainly it's about giving them a direction for a possible program with a storyline.
Yeah.
Something to sink their teeth into. And also showing them respect, because they really bust their ass and they're like trying the hardest they can. Sometimes they do stuff they shouldn't do because it makes no sense. But then you sort of you appraise the situation, you analyze the match, and you're like, okay, you didn't need to do that.
Yeah.
You could have easily just slowed it down. Remember, you want to create heat. You don't have to take the comeback away from the face. I mean, just stomp him a bit more, or like choke him over in the corner, or throw him out of the ring if you need some space. Just work with the crowd. And I think that's the strength of CCW, is like from a very early get-go, we started like, we believed in the people who trained there.
Yeah.
And from there we can work, it can be worked up towards having like other talent. But we also like, it's the same within the car. My brother as well. I mean, he came in, and it was just like, I can do all of this stuff. No, just go out there and have fun, but work with this talent, and eventually you will like work towards a program. And then suddenly he became the first, he became the, I'm gonna pronounce it wrong, but he's gonna hate me for it. But he became the DPW light heavyweight champion, I think. I can't remember the titles. Sorry, I'm so focused on CCW. But yeah, became that, and he was just like, "Thank you, thank you, thank you." But I'm like, bro, I mean, come on, you worked all these matches, and he's another great talent. So yeah.
Brilliant. Like, where do you think Danish wrestling could get to then, and CCW?
Well, it depends if the three promotions actually can work together.
Yeah.
Which I think is necessary to make something really big happening. If not, it's gonna take at least 5 or 7 years before the next level. Right now, I think CCW and BodySlam is definitely doing well. DPW have been hurt by the corona also, but they're also like getting back into to the grind. But I think that all three promotions should start working together and just cut out the bullshit and cut out the politics, because I'm not a political guy, and the boys knows it. I call it down the middle. I think like move on, and because if all three promotions worked together and stopped saying, "Oh, this guy's the best" or "that guy's the best," or no, this is about pro wrestling. This is about like showing our passion, and it's still a niche. Like it's a small minority of people who still know about wrestling in Denmark. So if all people could just leave the ego at the door, get together, make business, I would be very happy. But if not, it's gonna take some time.
Do you
It's
think?
definitely gonna take some time. Yeah.
Yeah. Free don't. Like, I know it's been getting better. I know at one point, if you worked for one company, you wouldn't be working for the other. But now we've been seeing people like Nitro Green working all the three different shows. And I spoke to Hunyadi Tamas, and he was saying he's been working them. We've just seen Michael Finn announced for Dansk Pro Wrestling again. So he's going to be going back there. If it doesn't change. Of course, Pete Phoenix and Cal Samara as well. I don't want to leave them out, but
No.
if the three companies don't work together and the politics and stuff doesn't change, do you still think Danish wrestling could grow as much as like other neighboring countries, like Germany or the UK?
Sure. I mean, I don't think CCW is going to feel anything about it, because CCW is sort of like on an island by themselves. It's a different product. Both grungy, the people who come there, they don't. Well, some do, but the majority of the audience comes to a CCW show because it's punk, it's rock, it's metal, and of course, there's some pop involved with the entrances and stuff, but they get booed. But yes, of course, but it will be a much slower progress. I also think that it's also about maturity.
Yeah.
I think that the Body Slam guys needed to strike out on their own and feel independent.
Yep.
And like we can do this. We can, yeah, hell yeah, we can do this. And then they did it, and we did it. And DPW is like the old promotion, it's like the old castle, right?
Yeah.
I think it's about maturity, and I am like, I want to think the best of people.
Yeah.
So I hope in the future it can heal, but if not, it will be a slower process.
Yeah. Would you want a super show of sorts happen? Do you think that would work, where all three companies like, right, these are, say, our main belts, our main storylines? Do you think
Yeah. I mean, we
would
we
work
do
in Denmark?
yeah, we do Ragnarok once a year, right? And that's a sort of our big WrestleMania, or like big show. But definitely. If it could be, if there would be a good teamwork, and if
Yeah.
the and giving the giving everyone something to sink their teeth into, I think that's the hardest thing, because in pro wrestling, after like 8.5 years of this, people have a hard tendency to like be honest with themselves and leave the ego at the door and go to work
Yeah.
for the audience. And so if the storytelling was right, if it could be done with like programs in mind all over Denmark, and everyone met at this one show, I think that could be awesome. Yeah.
Do you think Copenhagen would be the best place to do that?
Yeah, I would.
Yeah.
I would. Just from the last 2 years, I mean, there's been a lot of pro wrestling, but it's not nearly big enough.
Yeah.
I think if we want to take our culture, and I'm saying our culture for all the promotions,
Yeah.
and that might be a bit arrogant, but uh, I think we should say our culture, and if we want to take it to the next level, um, I think Copenhagen is a good place to bring it out like mainstream to all of Denmark,
Yeah.
because it's also here a lot of the businesses, the media businesses. There's a lot of networking. I
Yeah.
mean, my network exploded within the last 2.5 years,
Yeah.
of just like people who want to network, and it's all in Copenhagen. So yes, Kurt, definitely yes.
Brilliant. I know with Sweden and Denmark, there's always that history between the two nations. Would you want to try and bring those into some? If that Super Show was to happen, would you look at the likes of like Sweden and Norway or Finland, like the neighboring countries, to try and do that big? Hey, this is like Scandinavia and friends. This is like what we can do. Do you think it'd be
Yeah,
better bringing in those, or would you just try and
def-
keep it Denmark?
I mean, at Ragnarok, the first coach I ever wrestled with for 5 hours, even though it was a clusterfuck, because I couldn't wrestle, I couldn't bump, and I was hurting all over after 5 hours. It's the Canadian Rebel Starbuck, and he's like an old school veteran
Yeah.
he's like a treasure trove of knowledge. And we brought him in, like I talked with Chaos and said, can we bring him in so we can like extend your storyline between you two? And it's not even a storyline. There is some feud in there. And you can see it when they have their matches. That's really like the battle of the titans when those two go in the ring. But we brought them in, and definitely, I mean, you have in Finland, you have Fight Club Finland,
Yeah.
right? FCF. But you also have the new promotion called Slam Wrestling
Okay.
under Michael Macellati, which is really making a lot of stuff happen. And what he's doing over there is also something I'm like, okay, if I can get the physique I want, and if they have a spot, that's definitely somewhere I'm looking into, like definitely like a goal of mine to
Yeah.
wrestle at my first coach's promotion. And also he's really a decent man, and like that's what's needed at the top. You have to have a decent man with principles, because if not, then people are not going to work for you.
Yeah.
Then you have SWS. I mean, you have Harley Rage, you have like Danny Sharp, you have El Stugelse, you have a lot of people there. Sure, definitely the Norway promotion, Norwegian promotion as well. Definitely, that would be awesome.
Yeah.
But again, Kurt, we're talking about numbers here, right? We're
Yeah.
talking about booking fees and transport, and that would be a very expensive show. So to get back to you about that, three promotion that works together, putting the numbers in, that would create like amazing matches.
Definitely. So if such a show was to happen, what match would you want? You're going in as Copenhagen, you get champion, you're the CCW champion.
Which match
Would you
would I
want?
be
Is that
in?
so? Yeah. So if this Super Show was happening, like, what match would you want on that show defending the CCW title?
Hangman versus well, ah, that's hard, man. No, that's actually easy, but now it's a super show, so I would say, yeah, I'll choose that one. Why the hell not? I would say Hangman versus the Canadian Rebel Starbuck.
Okay. Why that one?
He's got coming though because he was disrespectful towards me, but he knows it. I'll take that old bear out in the back.
So before we get back to like your career, I know we've been talking a lot about like how it all came to be with CCW and stuff like that. How did Chaos
Yeah.
take it? Like, how did Chaos take it at the time where you kind of split away and setting up your own promotion? Because I know you've worked very closely with Dansk Pro Wrestling, but
Yeah.
was he ever any frustration?
Well, uh, me and Chaos have gone from being friends, or he's being. I was the trainee
Yeah.
and he was my mentor. And then at some point, people talk behind our backs, and they sort of like divide and conquer. And he thought I said something about him, and I thought he said something about me, and I was like, "Screw you, get the fuck away from me. I'm not gonna talk with you anymore." And he did the same. So we didn't talk for a couple of years, and then like at some point we needed a ring because we finally got our own ring, and like it was late, and we had a show. So he was like, "Yeah, you can use my old ring," and then we started talking, and then he borrowed my new ring, and yeah, we sort of like. I forgot the question, by the way. What?
Like, was there any tension between like yourself or Chaos with you opening CCW?
Oh yeah, now I remember. Um, sure, I had a lot to prove.
Yeah.
I had a lot to prove. I mean, here I am saying I want to create my own promotion, right? And I have a vision about it, and and I want to do it on my own
Yeah.
without my mentor in the picture. And it's going to be called CCW, and we're going to do it like this. And it's going to be a storyline and a very vintage storyline, grungy feeling to it. So yes, I had a lot to prove, and eventually, with the old Godfather, yeah, eventually, if you work really hard and you listen, you will get his respect. But it's not gonna come within the like this. You have to work hard for it.
Yeah,
So
definitely.
definitely, there's been tension. Of course, I mean, I had a lot to prove.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's good to see that again. It's 5 years in. You're doing great stuff. You survived the pandemic, so that's good. And going to your career, like from when I was doing like some of the research, am I right in thinking like quite early on, again Hangman, so it's quite a fitting match. But you had the bull rope match with, was it
Yeah.
Mick Robinson?
Yeah. Oh my God. You just had to mention that match, right, Kurt? Oh my God. Yeah, I Mick the Mad Bastard Robinson. Well, you want the story? I'll
I
give you
do.
this about it. So, Chaos, he wants me to have a bull rope match with Mick the Mad Bastard. The thing is, he was in Stockholm the day before, and this guy he was wrestling like he dislocated his shoulder from a suplex because he didn't tuck his feet at this disco club. So it's like his feet is like up in the ceiling, dong, and then he lands, and then he dislocates his shoulder, and he doesn't say anything, and then the match ends. And so I'm sitting on the train with Mick, and he's a cool guy, but he was very like paranoia and afraid, and he didn't want to he didn't want to do anything. And I was like, but we're having a bull rope match, and it's like I'm the hangman, and like it's a rope, and I can do all kinds of stuff. And yeah, but what about this guy? And I dislocated his shoulder. And sure enough, there was a lot of guys from Sweden who like contacted me and said, hey man, this guy you're wrestling is dangerous. And I was like, yeah, but this is a bull rope match. So, hello. So we come and we and it was actually the show where Drew McIntyre was on.
Okay.
So that was like, yeah. And
Big show then.
Yeah. So we get there and we go through the match, and we got this rope. And at some point during the match, he starts beating me. And I sell, and he's like, are you all right? And I'm like, what the fuck, dude? And everyone could hear it. I was like, are you all right? I'm like, so I slapped him, and he was like, get out of it. And I come backstage, and Chaos is looking at me like, really? And it was just like, it's not my fault. And he was just like, yeah, okay, all right. That was, bull rope match with Mick. That was not a good match. And it's not really his fault, because like if you hurt someone that bad, you get emotional about it. So yeah. It is what it is.
Would you have another bull rope match?
Sure. This time it will be different. Definitely. But yeah.
So going through, like, obviously, what's your takes on championships? So some people are like, yeah, it's just a prop. Some people will wear it as a badge of honor. Personally, from an outside looking in, I think people should take pride in them, just because, yes, it's a prop and it's something to elevate your storyline and the story you're telling. But being put in that position, you're not going to get put in that position if you're going to shit the bed. Like, what's your take on it?
My take? Okay.
There it is.
This is my championship. I worked 8.5 years. A lot of pain, a lot of sweat, tears, frustration, politics, backstabbing, people talking shit, fans talking shit, all that stuff.
Yeah.
All the ways, all the valleys, all the hills. So, in my view, if you're a champ, you're carrying the championship. It's not really about the championship because it's an object and it's pretty, but it's you giving the championship value from yourself and your story. Okay?
Yep.
And that's pretty much what is most important. If you're a champion, you have to carry yourself and conduct yourself that, like, everyone knows in the locker room I speak my mind, right? But I'm honest and I call it down the middle. Everyone knows it, from Lou, Ender, Carlos. I mean all the boys, everyone, including my mentors and coaches. That is part of this, right? Even though I'm a heel, it's still, and it transcends when you're in the ring. If you carry it with dignity, whether it's a strap, it's just the medal. To me, it's real. This is 8.5 years of like hard work, where there was a lot of people who said I never could do it. So, yeah. Hello. I did it.
I'm glad that's your take on it. Because I just find it baffling, like, when people don't enjoy them. Like, each to their own. But to me, yes, it's not, say, UFC or boxing or anything like that. But to me, treat it as the BAFTAs or something like that. Like, you're getting that. You've worked your ass off to get to that stage.
I can tell you, when you have made, like, in a month time, when you have made at least 50 bumps or 100 bumps in a ring, and you worked a lot of heavy matches to put another guy over and stuff, and then it's your turn, believe me, it's real. It's tough. I've had a lot of tough guys coming through the training session, and they don't come back because we work hard.
Yeah.
So it's about a mentality definitely about a mentality. So to me, that is real. I don't care what other people say. They can have their opinion. I'll just
So
smile.
how did you feel with the DPW tag titles then? Obviously you won those as was you the Rising?
Yeah, the Rising
Yeah, with
with the
Hector,
with the
Iron.
yeah. That's Victor, Hector. For me, I got very emotional. And I kissed my mentor on the head, and he looked at me like, "What the hell?" I got very emotional, but it was for me. It was like the first step, and it was just like a nod of approval.
Yeah.
Um, and it was my first sort of like champions, and I wanted it to be right. That was special. That was definitely special. Just like uh, just like the CCW Championship is special, but that's that's a lot of hard work, right? The
Yeah.
tag team was just like an honorary statement as well from my mentor. So yeah, I got emotional. I That was a lot of tears.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
That's great to hear. And then obviously fast forward a couple of years, you've got the championship there at Ragnarok 2, finally beating Sebastian. Like Sebastian's had the title since it became a thing, apart from losing it to Chaos and then winning it back in the same day. The
Yeah.
title's been with Sebastian. So what's going to be different about CCW under you being the champion now, as opposed to Sebastian? Because it truly is a new era in Copenhagen Championship Wrestling.
Well, the only thing I can say is that the bat is out of hell. That is the only thing I can say. I'm not gonna say anything about that. There's a lot of stuff in the works, but we will talk about it in the jury and we will figure a plan. Now we have two champs in the jury, and we will see what happens. But yeah, I'm not gonna. You'll just have to see, Kurt. That's just how it is, man.
What's been one of your favorite matches on the road to that journey? Obviously, you had that fatal four-way where Sebastian was telling the story of where the crowd was like, "Oh, we know it's going to go this way, it's going to go this way," and then things changed, and you
Yeah.
made it into the fatal four-way with yourself, Pete Phoenix, Carlos Zamora, and Sebastian Day. Obviously, you weren't successful in that. Then fast
No,
forward a year, you win the Copenhagen Wrestling Cup, beating Carlos Zamora in the final, and now you finally got that win over Sebastian. Like on that journey to the championship, what stands out for you apart from the Sebastian match?
hmm. Yeah, I mean the Copenhagen Cup. I met Black Kurt, which is like a old '70s vintage wrestling where there's not a lot of bumps and it's heavy.
Yeah,
Surprisingly, even though it was not the best match, I would say meeting Black Kurt in a match that was not as it was not it was not a good match. There was a lot of things that went wrong in that match.
yeah,
Uh, but when I look back on it from an audience perspective and I put him in a submission, uh, the audience was so loud and so intense that was definitely a special moment. If I have to pick one, because they're all special, but because it was not a good match, definitely not. But the audience still supported Kurt,
yeah.
no matter what he did. That was awesome, and I was really proud for Kurt. But also, I could see like, okay, this is working. This is good heat, and that was sort of the beginning towards that. Yeah, yeah.
Brilliant.
Of course,
So
Carlos, all the other guys were cool as well, but I would say that stands out.
yeah. So, like, what's for the future of yourself? Like before, I was talking like there's been change in your role within CCW? Like,
Yeah.
tell everybody about that.
Well, there's no denying I created the CCW from scratch. I trained pretty much all the guys in some way or area, right? I've been behind the scenes and I've been wrestling.
Yeah.
But I decided, because I pretty much my protege and my friend and brother and like my extended family and all that, Sebastian has been in the trenches with me for like 3.5, 4 years, right?
Yeah.
I've taught him everything I can. So when I got the championship at the TLC, I decided to step down as the owner. And I didn't do it out of like, I was mad or angry or bitter. No, I think it's time for the next generation, the new generation, because there's been coming up a lot more people to work and like learn how to work, like use your hands, get creative. It's not only about wrestling. There's a lot of stuff outside. I know Pete Casper said all of this stuff as well. It's sort of how I like gave it to them. Now they have to give it to someone else.
Yeah.
For me, when I stepped down, it was because I want to be the absolute best I can be as a wrestler. And now I can finally prove that I'm as good as I am.
Yeah.
But when you work as a promoter and you do all of this stuff, you set up the ring, you do the marketing, you talk with all the people, everyone needs to know, I talk with the booker, there's a lot of stuff going on. And then you have to have a match. I realized I was always the last one getting dressed, like getting warmed up, having to like being exhausted. Now I want to be the one coming in. Yes, I'm setting up the ring and doing all this stuff, but all this high tire management that is required, I have given to the others. They're in a good place. Good stuff will happen, and now I can focus on just being Hangman, the best that I can be.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
So it really is with new focus on the like ownership and new champion. It is going to be, I guess, a different direction for CCW. But from your owning and like booking standpoint, then not including anything that's involved yourself, what's been either your favorite match or favorite story that's been told within CCW?
I like the Nitro Green Hype Boy story. You have this. You have the pupil who wants to. Oh no, I was a part of that. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Well, it's been mentioned so many times. I like the Sam Ashfaq Pete Phoenix story for sure. I like that one. That was a good. Well, even though I was involved as the promoter and like working behind the scenes, how do we direct this? And I think they took the direction that was given to them, and they ran with it. And then they sort of like came back and said, "Hey, is this okay? Can we do this?" And but if when you make a program, if you have the end of the story in mind, then you can work backwards from there. And like they did, I think they did that storyline well.
Yeah.
That was a good job on their part for sure. Yeah.
Brilliant. So what's next for yourself? And you mentioned you want to get into the best shape you can. You mentioned Finland earlier, and obviously keep raising the bar for CCW and Danish wrestling as a whole. But what is the ultimate goal for yourself as a professional wrestler?
Well, I'll definitely keep working in CCW, and I'm also gonna start taking bookings in DPW for my old mentors promotion. I will. A big goal of mine would be to work at Slam Pro Wrestling. FCF is also a good place. I'll see if I can get back to my old promotion, SWS. It depends if I don't know if they're having any shows with the whole Corona stuff, but I'm gonna visit my friend in the States, Jake Oman, during the summer. We made a sort of a promise to each other that this year, because he knew all this me stepping down, it was just a matter of timing. So I'm gonna visit him, and I'm gonna go on a tour with him if we can make it match. And being with him is just like learning so much. Like, yeah, I might look into actually visiting Lou in Scotland when they open up there and try to get some wrestling going there. It depends if Lou can get some bookings, but let's see. Right now, I'm just focused on getting back in shape, sleeping well, eating regularly, no beer, no booze, just some orange. So yeah. And that's pretty much it. I mean, and yeah, my ultimate goal is definitely to get the heavyweight DPW champion while I am the CCW champion, because that's never happened before. Let's see what happens. You never know in pro wrestling. It can go like this or it can go like that. It's like, yeah.
Well, if it does happen, like, we'll definitely have to get back on the show. I'll ask the question. What about BodySlam?
What about BodySlam? Well,
would you
depends.
do you want to work with them? Like, would you want to work there?
There is one I would love to work with, and his name is Tank, and he's like an old veteran. I watched some of his stuff, and when I looked at it, and like it was like that could really be a good match. That could be a good story in there, you know. But it depends. As I said earlier, there's a lot of healing and some like honesty that needs to be dealt with. But I'm not against it. I mean, sure. But then again, working with Tank could be interesting. That would be like I could see me telling a story with him. He's good. Okay. So yeah.
Now, we mentioned before we was gonna do like a shoot fire round, like let everybody know what you think of them. I want to start with Hype Boy.
Future. He's definitely the future. Yeah, he's awesome. Just wait. In 2 years' time, he's going to take the entire Danish scene and just say, bring it. So, yeah.
Pete Phoenix.
Little bro.
Lunica.
Yeah. I hate him. I hate his guts. No, Lunico. Brother. Yeah.
Victor Volt.
Brother.
Nitro Green.
Oh, man. Such a talent. Brother, friend, future. Yeah.
Carlos Zamora.
The future, brother, freak of nature. He's so strong. It's unbelievable. Yeah.
Do you think Carlos could be the person to try and put more eyes onto Danish wrestling? Obviously, he had that tryout with WWE. I mentioned it with Christian with BodySlam. I had an interview with Mila Schmidt from France, and she was on about wrestling wasn't really taken serious. People weren't too familiar or things like that. And then as soon as Amel gets signed by WWE, then it's all over the news and more people are paying close attention.
Yeah.
So if Zamora was to go with WWE, if he was successful and join the NXT UK brand, what do you think that would do for CCW, DPW?
Awesome. It's about timing. I've always said to them, let me get this straight, and he knows this. This is not me just, like you said, blowing smoke up your ass. I've always said this to Carlito. He's a very hungry individual and person, and he's a fighter, former MMA fighter, and he's like very disciplined in his work ethic and everything. But it's about timing, and it's about the right timing. he was a heel, and then he became a face. But there is a top face in CCW, right? And that face is Black Kurt. Whether Carlos is like a technical talent that is so good, we still have Black Kurt. And as I said, it's about timing and getting it ready in advance for him to take that step. Because as you said, if someone, it's about promotional value, and you have to pre-plan all of that stuff in advance. Am I making sense here? Or?
Yeah, no, yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
So if
Definitely
it wasn't
Carlos, yeah, man. I mean, that would be. It's a matter of timing, but it's that would be awesome. Sure. Whether
it wasn't
it's
Carlos
championship strap or it's not not necessarily the strap. It's about like the right timing for Carlos.
Yeah.
And
so
right
if it wasn't Carlos that got signed by WWE first, who do you think it should be?
Huh? What
Who do you think? So if Carlos wasn't the first Danish wrestler to be signed by NXT UK, who do you think should be if it's not Carlos?
Nitro Green.
Yeah. So why Nitro?
Because he's ready. I mean, I get it. My answer might be controversial to some. I mean, Pete Phoenix and Carlos is also good. I mean, but I mean, I think Nitro really fits the mold over there, and like he also carries himself. I mean, you asked me, it could be Carlos or it could be Nitro Green. Both of them are like this. Yeah. I mean, Carlos was the first one to be on the WWE tryout. That rubbed Nitro Green sort of the wrong way, but it just made him more like focused and passionate about like taking it a step up, and that's what's needed. So, hell yeah, I could definitely see Nitro Green kicking ass over there for sure. For sure, he's such a great talent. He can do anything.
So back to the names and looking sharp.
Oh man, Lou, yeah, the same. He's been all over the place. I mean, come on, from China to Scotland to Norway to Finland to Denmark to I don't know where he's been. He's been everywhere. The blood tourist goes on. He can do anything he wants. It's just a matter of timing for Lou, for sure. Yeah.
And Akara.
Oh man, again, the story with Ender is like it's sort of the same story. That's something we share. He's been through so much in Sweden. I mean, he's been through so much. And he's so talented, right? And he trains and he's disciplined and he's such a talent. He's so fast and smooth, but nobody wants to give him a chance. And they're like politics and bullshit and all that stuff, man. It's enough to puke over. But he comes to CCW and he's there once and he comes back and he's just smiling, beaming, and every match just becomes better and better. And then suddenly he goes to Germany, boom. He can do anything he wants to do.
Yeah.
Again, he's the future. Those three guys can do. Why they're not there right now, I don't know. It's just, again, I don't know how the promotion and card is stacked. I don't know, but they should definitely like pick those three guys and get them the hell out of Denmark and Sweden and just go and do business.
Brilliant. Sam Ashfaq.
He's getting there. I mean, I trained Sam from the very first training day.
Yeah.
And he's a very different. And here's the thing: he's the most gentle kind of guy in the locker room. Period.
Yeah.
And also the voice of reason and helpful. And I think he can go in a, I don't know. Again, it's just my view, but if he wants to. But he's also the future. Definitely. I like the way he sort of like took the direction and went with it. Definitely, yeah.
And to wrap it up then, Sebastian.
Sebastian is Sebastian is the new owner of CCW, and he has to take it in a direction that he and the teammates, and of course I will be there as a consultant, right? I hope for him that he will get a break. I know he dreams of going to Japan, and I hope in the future he can do that because he deserves that break. He's the only one who's been working so hard for CCW as I am. Of course, there's also the media group and everything, but he's the one stable guy that's been at my side. So if he could go to Japan, I know he wants to. That would be awesome for him. Yeah.
Copenhagen Hangman.
Oh yeah, man. As I said, in the future I will be carrying this for a long time, and on the other side I will be carrying the DPW Heavyweight Championship for the first time. So you're looking at a 2-time champion.
Nah, brilliant. Well, Hangman, thank you for coming on the show. Like, it's been great talking to yourself and like learning more about your career and more about CCW as a whole, and just the positive mindset you've got on everything as well. It's great to see.
Thanks, man.
Appreciate it. Where can people find you on social media, and where can they find CCW?
They can find CCW at Copenhagen Championship Wrestling on Facebook. It's I don't know how you say it, but it's the A with the CPH Wrestling. Boom. You can put it in the search field and it will like sort itself out. I don't know how it happens. It's magic. It's like boom, there. Hangman's Corner on Instagram.
Yeah.
It's just Hangman's Corner. It's like my own little corner. And then CPH Hangman on Facebook. That's pretty much it. Yeah, it's true. I have a Twitter account. I don't know what it's called. I don't use Twitter.
Hangman.
Get it. It's CPH Hangman. Thank you, sir. Thank you so much.
See, from doing these Scandinavian ones, I always make sure I get everybody's Twitter handles ready, because because the amount of times like Facebook, you can find it here. Instagram, you can find it here. Twitter.
Well, I'm from a time where we didn't even have phones, man. We had I'm that old. Like, can you see the gray beard? It's like, and you had a phone, and now you have like this, and like it's just too much. I go up to my cottage and I just turn everything off, and I'm like, bye. So yeah. But thanks for the talk, Kurt. I really appreciated that. That was fun. We can do it again sometime. Man.
Pardon?
I said we can do it again sometime.
Yeah, definitely. There's so much more we could talk about, and hopefully, like wherever it comes with like CCW and like Danish wrestling, I'll try my best, like to try and keep promoting and things like that, and hopefully, COVID permitting, I finally get out to Copenhagen and go witness Scandi Graps for myself, I guess.
Yeah, true that. You're always welcome to see some Nordic, hard-hitting professional wrestling.
Everybody, make sure you go follow Copenhagen Hangman. Make sure you go follow Copenhagen Championship Wrestling. If you've enjoyed this, make sure you hit like, make sure you hit subscribe. And if you want to learn more about Scandinavian wrestling, have a look at the playlist, #ScandiGraps, where you can find a list of everybody else. I won't name them all because it just gets awkward. I just start talking and Hangman will just be sat there waiting. So again, thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. Until next time.
Nobody like this. You ain't seen nobody like